Hey everybody, welcome back. It is the Razzball Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Beaton, joined by the one, the only, the Fantasy Master Lothario, the spectacled man of fantasy baseball. How's it going over there, Gray Albright?
Hey man, what's going on? I have a new least favorite thing. You ever have this hint thing?
The what?
The drink hint. This is not a paid sponsorship because I hate it. It's awful. It's like you had this flavor is a pineapple hint. It's got nothing. It's water infused with pineapple essence. It's like someone ate pineapple about 10 minutes ago and then burped into a jar of water. And that's what you're drinking. It's so terrible, man. I don't even know. Why would they even like it's weird because I do like seltzer with flavor. This Waterloo is good. Not a sponsor either, but actually I do like it. But the something about sparkling water that is so good when it has a little bit of flavor, and flat water is awful when it has a little bit of flavor. I don't know why that is. I don't know. If you have any ideas why that is, feel free to reach out to us in the comments on YouTube.
I think flat water, what you have to do is you have to flavor it yourself. So you have to find like the set of drops that you like, and you have to use the drops in flat water. There's not good flavored flat water in a can. Like you can't buy it ready to go. I think that's the key.
That's like the you remember those Soda Stream things? I used to I had a Soda Stream and then I got really into it. I think everything I get involved with except for fantasy baseball, I get really into for like a second and then forget about it almost immediately. But no, anyway, I got into the Soda Stream like really hardcore, and I bought all these different like flavors to put in the water. And then I started putting in the into the water. I started putting my vape juice. That doesn't stop. I wouldn't recommend that. I did not feel good for a
Oh no. Yes, please don't do that. Please do not listen to Gray on this account. There are many things Gray is good at giving advice on. This is not one. Remember when Gray bought a pizza oven? If you listened last year, that was a fun 3 episodes. I haven't heard about that since then.
I was like, no, seriously though. I love my pizza oven, but the problem is it gets to like 1200 degrees, and like you put in the dough, and it's well done within like 5 seconds. You can't move the pizza quick enough in and out of the pizza oven. It gets so hot. I don't know if anyone has any recommendations on how to use a pizza oven. Please reach out to.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to go at 1200. I think it's a good starting point. Maybe lower that temperature, Gray. But let's move off of your hobbies. Let's just get into some baseball stuff here.
Let's get off of the hobbies and into serious stuff like fantasy.
Serious hobbies, okay? Serious hobbies that the rest of us are invested in. Nobody cares about your pizza oven and how much dough you've burnt, Gray. It's fine. We know there's a lot of burnt dough and toppings.
Okay, one last thing about the pizza oven. I've gotten to the point where I know if I'm making pizza oven, I have to have a second dinner prepared because I know I'm gonna burn my pizza so bad I'm not gonna be able to eat it. I literally make pizza and then I also make a second dinner like on the side just in case. That I always have the just in case dinner instead of the pizza. I've never eaten the pizza out of the oven. It's always burned. Okay.
So It sounds like you need a bread maker. That way you can take half the dough and mess up a pizza. Take the other half, put it in the bread maker, and that way you can just make sandwiches with, the vegetables, the pepperoni, the whatever else you got around. You just make a sandwich with the bread maker every time.
I've watched hours upon hours of people making pizza in this oven, and everyone's able to do it. I just can't. can't figure it out. For some reason, I can't. I don't know why.
California, you know how to work a pizza oven. Hey, he needs the help. Moving on, Gray.
If any Pizziolos are listening, okay, sorry. Let's go. Let's get into it.
Yeah, moving on. Something that hopefully helps people. Brice Matthews was called up by Houston in AAA this year. He has 73 games, 10 home runs, 25 stolen bases. He hit 283, 400, 476. He did have a 30% K rate, but also a 15.5% walk rate. What are your thoughts on Brice Matthews? What kind of leagues were you looking at grabbing him
in? Zero leagues. I didn't pick up Brice Matthews anywhere. I don't know if even, I'm sure he was picked up in our AL only league, the league that you and I are actually in together, but I don't know if he was picked up in any mixed leagues that I'm in, at least. I was faintly sort of a little bit interested in seeing him perform because he does have power and speed, right? So he had in the minors, he had like you mentioned, 10 homers, 25 steals, and he hit 283. But the only problem is he had a 405 BABIP and a 30.2% strikeout rate in AAA. So far, it's only 4 games, so small sample size, but 4 games in the major leagues, he has a 40% strikeout rate. I just don't think he can make enough contact to be a legitimate fantasy provider for mixed leagues, at least. I just honestly, I'm kind of surprised the Astros even promoted him because the Astros are one of the smarter organizations. He feels like a guy that like the Angels would have promoted or something. I don't know what the Astros are thinking because he's so clearly not ready for the major leagues. Like, he just can't make any contact. So yeah, I don't know. He's like I'm sure people are familiar with a 3 true outcome player, a guy who walks, strikeouts, and hits homers. Brice Matthews, somehow he's become a 0 outcome player. he has a 15.4% walk rate in AAA with a 30% strikeout rate. So he basically goes up there and the pitcher's either going to walk him or strike him out. I'm not sure if he ever swings the bat. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think the skills are okay for power and speed. Like they do look like he looks somewhat interesting if he can make contact, but I mean, there's no contact. So in mixed leagues, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I think you could grab him if you just want to see what happens. You're just kind of like, what else is there type of situation. But I agree. I also don't know where he's really going to fit in. It doesn't seem like he's necessarily going to play every day either, which is even weirder that they would call him up and not play him every day if they were going to call him up. So this kind of has the feel of like, he's going to get sent back down pretty soon. So even if you're kind of taking the chance on him, I wouldn't spend too much. And the 405 BABIP, the Astros are in the PCL, which is, the notoriously hitter friendly. So 405 BABIP makes sense there, but like you said, it may not quite transfer over into the majors, and he does have some contact issues. So
if I can make a super random prediction, I feel like Brice Matthews is going to get DFA'd by the Astros in like 3 years, and then the Angels will pick him up. and he'll then play in front of whoever the Angels star is 3 years from now. That's Brice Matthews will play in front of him. Probably lead off the pros blocker in 3 years. I mean, I don't know. He's a weird profile because the speed and power look kind of interesting, but he either walks or strikes out. It's not great.
It's not. Would you drop any of these guys? Would you drop Matt Shaw, who's been Well, pretty horrible.
Yeah, Matt Shaw has been terrible, and he's hitting ninth most days, I think. And I would still go Matt Shaw over Brice Matthews.
Okay, so I think that gives us an idea of where you're at. I'm not even going to throw any more names out. Let's move on to the next topic, which is the Pirates have announced that Paul Skenes is going to have or could have more shortened outings. It seems like just looking at the track record of what's been going on, he may not throw more than 5 innings unless he's very efficient. Gray, what are your thoughts on Skenes in shorter outings? Is he still like a top 5 arm, or is he dropping down for you?
I'm going to read the entire report just so people can hear what the Pirates said. Then I'll comment on it. So they said that they're not gonna skip any of Skenes' starts in the second half, but will likely have him throw a few more low volume outings as a means of managing his workload. So they're gonna have him throw for the Pirates. Isn't that the I mean, that's you don't get much more low volume than that, right? I mean, it's like this isn't a high stress environment. We're headed for 100 losses for like the 25th year in a row. This is it, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't think this is really going to affect my outlook for Skenes. I figured they're going to somewhat curtail his innings, of course, but how much they're going to I don't know, maybe he's going to lose like 15 to 20 innings off of most starters. So say Skubal in the second half, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but say he's going to throw 75 to 85 innings in the second half. That feels a little high. That's including Sunday start. But yeah, so 75 to 85 for Skubal. I would say Skenes is probably in the 65 to or 60 to 70 range. So yeah, I mean, maybe 15-ish, 20-ish innings less than like a Skubal, but excellent innings. So, I don't know. I mean, it's like the thing with this kind of news is like if you trade him or even consider trading him, everyone's operating. I mean, I'm assuming at least everyone's operating from the same level of information. So it's like you're assuming your trade partner also knows Skenes is not going to be throwing as many innings. So like, what are you going to roofie your trade partner? I mean, they're going to know. It's not like you can avoid your trade partner knowing. So you're going to get less in a trade than maybe you would have, 3 weeks ago. With that said, I don't think it's really going to affect his fantasy value much. I think he was always, he's a top 3 starter at worst, a best starter in the majors at best. I mean, he's still going to be excellent. He just may be excellent for like 15 less innings. So yeah, I'm not really that concerned about it.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, it sounds like you're not concerned just given the fact that he's so dominant in those innings. In his last 4 starts, he hasn't thrown more than 90 pitches. In 3 of those, he hasn't thrown more than 80 pitches. So I do think there's a little bit here where, if somebody's willing to give you, we're saying he's in that top tier clearly. Like if they're willing to pay that top tier price, I might be willing to go ahead and move on from him just because you can probably put that together through streaming and just if we're looking at just totals like strikeouts, wins, obviously the ratios are going to be hard to come by at that kind of elite level, but I just feel like
bad anyway because it's the Pirates. I mean, that
was the other part.
So I'll say to you, the fear of DeGrom getting injured versus Paul Skenes throwing 15 to 20 less innings. Who are you going for, DeGrom or Skenes?
I think I'm probably going with Skenes just because I don't believe in DeGrom, but it really should be DeGrom. Like over, the season and over, last 30 days, like whatever kind of time frame you look at, DeGrom's pretty much been better just because he's getting wins and Skenes isn't. Like Skenes is the only pitcher in the top 20 who's negative in wins. It's really hard to be up there with a negative value in wins, and he does it. So that's my problem though. Like last 30 days, Gray, where do you think Paul Skenes falls among just starting pitchers?
I'll say, well, you've set me up in a way for me to think lower than I would have.
Yeah,
right. But I'll say he's a top 30 starters in the last 30 days.
On the player rater for the last 30 days among starting pitchers, he is 66th.
Wow.
Because he doesn't get wins, Gray. He doesn't. So the fact that he's piling up strikeouts, throwing great ratios, it doesn't matter as much because he's not getting the wins. And in that last 30 days is those 4 starts where he's not throwing as many innings. And so that's why I'm saying if you can get top level value for Skenes still, somebody's looking at it and saying, well, he's still throwing 5 innings. That means I still have a chance at wins. I'll still get my elite ratios. And you could trade him for a top 30 starter and a bat that's going to help you. That's probably more profitable in the end, just looking at, kind of what's happened this season with him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, right now he's having one of those like excellent middle reliever years. If a middle reliever threw an extra like 40 innings.
Yeah. I mean, like one of those 2-3 inning guys, Michael King when he was going.
Yeah. One of those like Joe Torre doesn't care about your elbow tendon. Like he's throwing an excellent like 1998 middle reliever a year.
Yeah,
Scott Proctor, watch out. I mean that's fair. I just feel like like I agree with you saying Skenes over DeGrom because DeGrom has the history of injuries and Paul Skenes is going to be excellent just for maybe a little bit less innings and have no wins. So I don't know. I mean, I hear what you're saying though. It's a fair point. It's a ballsy move to trade Paul Skenes for like a, as a top 5 starter, get that, bank that. And, cause I would think in a trade, you'd be able to get say, Kodai Senga and Rafaela, say, just picking 2 random guys that are on the podcast outline. I would say you could probably get those 2 guys, and on the face of it, that's like you're trading Paul Skenes for those 2 guys. Like, is that really that good? But in reality, it could actually work out much better for you.
It really could. I mean, Senga's been great when he's healthy. He's actually number 24 on the player rater, even missing time. So, it's really kind of one of those trades where you start looking at the numbers and the names may not make sense, but the numbers kind of do. And speaking of Rafaela, let's talk about some July performers. And it's kind of a special edition where I don't know if we've talked about these guys all season. So I want to give them some time, and maybe the reason we haven't talked about them is they don't deserve it, but maybe they do, Gray. And let's start with Rafaela, number 8 on the 30-day player rater. In July, he's played 14 games. He's hitting .340, 5 home runs, 2 stolen bases. He had a really bad April, and then since May, he's hit .289, .321, .532. His strikeout rate is under 20%. He has 12 home runs and 6 stolen bases. Like, is this real at this point? That like he's been kind of on the same pace for a while now.
Yeah, actually, the Red Sox too moved him up to the 3 hole, so that's promising. I think because they believe in him. So I feel like that's a good vote of confidence. My problem with Rafaela, and it's sort of like it's a non-existent problem if you've had him all year, But my big problem with him is he's not really a huge speed guy or a huge power guy or a huge average guy. So he's going to give you a little bit of everything. And over the course of like a full season, that's great. It's a 2020 265 year. That's a excellent year. There's nothing wrong with that. I think even coming into this year, he was a little bit underrated because like last year with his 15 homer, 19 steal year, he was actually more valuable last year than I think a lot of people realize, and good counting stats. So, but the problem was with 2020 year, over the course of a full season, even hitting 265, it's like it gets a little from like week to week. It's a little bit boring when you have a guy who's having like, he's hitting like 3/4 of a homer and 3/4 of a steal each week. I don't even know what 3/4 of a steal is. That's like getting picked off halfway down the line. But I think with a guy like him versus like say I don't know, say Chandler Simpson. Like if you need steals, like Chandler Simpson may not be as valuable as Rafaela in the big picture. But in the small picture, it's like if you need steals, Simpson's going to be good. Or if you need power, like Rafaela, as good as Rafaela is, maybe a guy like, I don't know, a guy who I'm thinking about who's struggling, Christian Walker. Christian Walker gets hot and hits for power. That's better for power. He's going to be better for power than Rafaela, more than likely if he starts hitting, obviously. So it's like I don't mind Rafaela really in the big picture. He's actually a solid guy who I think is underrated. And if you had him as like a number 4 or even a number 5 outfielder, probably in some of drafts, if you drafted him as like that, I think you're pretty happy with what you're getting. And he's sort of a set in and forget it guy for the most part. But yeah, I just think in shallower leagues, you might grow a little bit bored of him. I'm talking about 10, even 12 team, but mostly 10 team mixed leagues. You see Rafaela hitting, like 1 homer every 10 games or stealing a bag every 10 games. And you're like, it's okay. I mean, it's fine, but it gets boring.
Yeah, I think maybe the dual eligibility makes it look a little more palatable in like 12-team leagues where you can kind of move them in and out of outfield, middle infield, and you kind of throw them in different places. But you're right, it's not necessarily the biggest upside play here. He's kind of the more speed equation of like an E.5. Maybe the average is possibly a little bit better. Hap will have more power. Rafaela have more speed. And those guys aren't necessarily exciting, but when you look up at the end of the season, they're always there in the player rater. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to own them in pretty much every league I'm in, but I'm not necessarily in any 10-team leagues either. Would you rather have Rafaela or Xavier Edwards, who's been a little bit better recently?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd go Rafaela. If I were just looking at if I was just looking for an overall player, I'd go Rafaela.
Okay. How about Jordan Beck? We'll look at an outfielder.
I would go Rafaela.
Okay. How about Geraldo Perdomo, who I know we've talked about at some point, but haven't talked a ton about?
Yeah. I mean, he's probably been better than most people think, but I would still go Rafaela.
Okay. And O'Neal Cruz.
I would go O'Neal Cruz.
Okay. Had to get somewhere eventually. How about Zach Neto?
I would go Neto.
Okay. And I would too. And Zach Neto's the next guy on the list, number 18 hitter on the 30-day player rater. In July, he's had 3 home runs, 5 stolen bases. He's hitting .310. And Neto's been solid all year. I don't know why we haven't talked about him up to this point, except that he's just been solid all year. So there's never really anything to say here. I mean, what do you feel about Zach Neto?
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's been surprisingly pretty consistent from month to month. I was going to, I felt like for some reason Because I have Neto in I think I have him in 2 leagues. But anyway, my feeling on him was going to be he's sort of had hot and cold months, but actually he's been pretty consistent. He had one, like May was a huge month for power. He had 6 homers in May. All the other months he's had 3 homers, which is fine though. I mean, he's the kind of player, he had, I think probably I have him, and I thought he had a really hot month early on, but it was probably more the fact that he came back towards the tail end of April and only played 11 games in April, had 3 homers, and then had a huge May with the 6 homers, like I mentioned. So he had 9 homers in like what amounts to basically like 5 weeks. So that's probably why I felt like he had such a hot start. But he did felt like he's cooled off a bit. I think it's fair to say he has, because of like what I mentioned with the first 5 weeks of his season. With all that said, I mean, if he only gives you 3 homers a month and roughly 20 homers a year with his speed, which isn't that bad really. I mean, he's got like he's headed for 30 steals this year after having 30 steals last year. So if he comes in at like roughly 22 homer, 30 steal season, basically what he did last year. With this year he has a little bit better average. I think that's probably accounting for a little bit of luck because his BABIP's a little high. With all that said, he looks pretty decent. I mean, it's like not necessarily the best of positions. Where he he's a shortstop. So whatchamacallit, if he's got like if he had like second base eligibility, a little bit more appealing, but even as a shortstop, he hasn't been bad. I mean, he's been pretty solid 5 category contributor and a lot of runs really. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I don't know how giant the power is. I don't know how the speed's what it is, 30 steal speed, which is fine, and he's racking up a ton of runs. It's good. It's a good year. It's not really like, I don't think it's ever going to be, I don't think people are ever going to get like super pumped to be drafting him, but he's probably a little bit underrated. Yeah. I mean, I like him.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is. And I think even as you're saying you like him, you're potentially underrating him. Last 30 days on the hitter player rater, Gray, give me a guess. What do you think he comes in at?
Well, you said I was underrating him, so I'm going to go higher than I probably would have. But I
know, and I still think you're going to undershoot him.
Yeah, probably. I'll say he's the 27th best hitter.
He is the 18th best hitter on the last 30-day player rater, and he's a top 50 hitter on the season. He's the number 6 shortstop on the season and number 4 over the last 30 days. So the consistency and the runs are just, and he steals 5 bases a month, like clockwork. He steals 5 bases a month, and all that just keeps adding up.
Yeah, I mean, he's, as I look at the player rater and seeing him there, I mean, he's like probably he's another hot week away from passing Lindor, and Lindor's another cold week away from falling behind Neto. So yeah, I mean, and yeah, that's top 4 shortstop territory. That's really good. Yeah, I mean, I do like him. I think he's probably underrated because a little bit of the Rafaela situation where he doesn't have like huge category numbers other than runs, and runs are hard to predict. So I mean, you would think the Angels, not being a great team, wouldn't necessarily be the team that would be propelling a guy to have so many runs as they are. But yeah, I mean, you can't argue with success. I mean, he's been good now 2 seasons. Like I think he might even be underrated next year in drafts. I wouldn't be surprised if he's after the top 60, 70 overall in drafts, and I think he's probably worth a top 50 pick. Easy.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll probably just continue to get disrespected until he does it, another year, maybe even two in it. And then he'll probably be overdrafted and we'll be out on him. But for this year, Gray, would you rather have him or, bounce back candidate of the year, Trevor Story?
I would go Neto.
All right. How about Jose Altuve, who has also bounced back within this own season?
Yeah, that's true. I think they're really close. I mean, I don't know. I would say Altuve, but I mean, it's kind of a toss-up.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of close on those two. I would probably go Neto just because I think the speed's a little more consistent at this point. But I could also see going Altuve because you're just trusting in the track record and him knowing that park. And quite honestly, the Houston being better than the Angels. I mean, that's not really a high bar, but that's on the list of things in Altuve's camp. Let's move on to somebody who's not on a great team here, Gray, and that is Mickey Moniak. Number 54 on the 30-day player rater. He's hitting 349, 388, 714, 5 home runs, 2 stolen bases. He got off such a terrible start. He got dropped everywhere if he was even drafted. But since June, Gray, he's hit 356, 408, 778 with 9 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Is Mickey Moniak for real, or is this just like I've looked at him so many times and not picked him up, and now reading those numbers, I just feel like an idiot for not having picked him up at some point. Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts here on Mickey Moniak?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like, he's definitely going to be awful next year because we know what happens to Rockies outfielders.
Well, yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's absolutely the case. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to really get super excited about like Mickey Moniak because like you look at his numbers and I mean, he's just sort of like so kind of blah. I mean, I don't know. The 14 homers and 5 steals and 267 average that he has so far is great for, picking him up off of waivers. And if he ends the year, if you prorate that out to even if he ends the year with like, 25 homers and 8 steals, say 25 homers and 8 steals is great. But I mean, is that really like, again, it's like, it's hard to get super excited about that. I mean, I guess it's nice that he's doing it if you have him on a team, but to trust it, I don't know. I actually do have him on a team and I don't trust it. I mean, the hard hit's good. He does hit a lot of fly balls. So maybe there's something to like, he's hitting finally in a very good park for him and he's getting the ball in the air and, good things are happening. Yeah, but he's just so boring. I don't know, man. It's really hard for me to build up enthusiasm for Mickey Moniak. He's been fine, I guess. If you're, struggling to find someone off of waivers, go for it.
Yeah, I will say for him, the launch angle is down to pretty much the lowest it's been in his major league career. He's at 16.4, which is fine. The hard hit is way up from where he's been, at least the StatCast version of hard hit. The zone swing rate is better. It's been better the last 2 seasons. The contact rate is better. The swinging strike rate is the best of his career by 5%. So there's signs of he's improving, but I'm with you that it's not necessarily an overly impressive skill set. It's kind of on the lower end of the Rafaela Ian Happ scale that we were talking about earlier. But I still think he should be owned in like any 5 outfielder, at least 12 team, if not even 10 team potentially, if you're, looking for an outfielder. I do think he probably needs to be owned at this point just because he's done it for, 2.5 months now and it's looked good. So I'm willing to at least buy in as a deep play in those type of leagues.
Yeah, no, agreed.
All right, let's talk about a couple arms, Gray. Brayan Bello, number 19 starting pitcher on the last 30-day player rater. Over the last 30 days, he has 38 and a third innings, 2.82 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, 29 strikeouts, 7 walks, and a 3-3 record. I mean, Brayan Bello is somebody that had pretty good pedigree at one point, and he had injuries and kind of got moved in and out of the rotation and back and forth from the minors. But what are your thoughts on this Brayan Bello streak that he has going? And is this the breakout, or is the pumpkin going to disappear?
Yeah, I would say disappear would be my guess. His underlying numbers look pretty bad. Like you mentioned, he's had a good month, but his overall season numbers are just like really blah. I mean, really just kind of like 6.8 K per 9, 3.2 walk per 9. He's not in a great he's hitting his BABIP is low for him. He's in a bad park for BABIP, so that you would think that would go up a little bit. And he looks a lot like for his career, he's a 4.17 ERA guy, and he doesn't look that different than what he's done for his career. Really, he's just had a good month, so I would say he's still like a 4.2 ERA pitcher that just happens to have a steady run of a month's run of good starts.
Yeah, I agree. He's still kind of in that streaming category, just on the strong side of it right now, because he is pitching well right now and it's working for him. But I'm with you. I think there's probably a drop off coming. As you mentioned, all the underlying numbers just say it's been a little unlucky, even though, again, last 30 days have been very clean for him. Would you rather have him or Jose Barrios?
Well, Barrios is just so terrible. So
he is.
I would go Bello.
Okay. How about Brandon Pfaadt, who's also kind of turned it on a little bit recently?
Yeah, I would probably try Brandon Pfaadt again, because I do think there's something to Pfaadt being like I liked him coming into the year. He looked awful for the first 3 months of the season, but he has looked better in July. So I would probably try Pfaadt.
Yeah, I agree. And for what it's worth, Bello's strikeout rate is just not impressive. So, he is giving a lot of innings. If you're looking for wins, I think that's, he's a good spot for that. But I think if I'm looking for strikeouts or ratios, I'm going the other direction there and going with Pfaadt. Somebody who we definitely should have talked about before now, Eury Perez, number 10 starting pitcher on the 30-day player rater, Gray, but he's been good for longer than that. But over the last 30 days, he has 27 innings, 30 Ks, 6 walks, 2.33 ERA, 0.67 WHIP, and 3-1 record. I mean, Eury Perez he's been great over at least recently, and then even beyond that, he's been pretty strong most of the season after a bad start.
Oh yeah, no, completely. Eury Perez to me is like an ace just waiting to happen. I think he's got a Cy Young in his arm at some point. Like I'm fully bought in on Eury Perez. I just think he needs to get his innings up and he needs to stay healthy, really. Like I don't see anything wrong with Eury Perez. He's probably I was thinking around, because this is a sickness, obviously. I was really thinking about 2026 and Eury Perez. I can't draft Eury Perez soon enough in 2026. I'm going to be assuming he's healthy through the rest of this year, and we get to the end of the year and he stays healthy. But yeah, man, Eury Perez and Joe Boyle are already bouncing around in my mind for 2026. I'm absolutely bought in on Eury Perez. I think he's he's probably better than even his numbers so far this year. And like you mentioned, they haven't been bad. I mean, he's got a 3.18 ERA in 34 innings so far this year, I wouldn't be surprised if that could be much better. And a 3.18 ERA is already very good. So yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, and while the Pirates are limiting Skenes innings, the Marlins just hit Eury Perez throw the longest outing of his season. So, maybe there's still more innings here than we thought as well. Isaac Collins, number 58 on the 30-day player rater. He's hit 311, 402, 419, 2 home runs, 4 stolen bases, 16 RBI or 16 runs, 10 RBIs. We're kind of getting into a deeper grouping here, but still somebody who's been performing well recently. Gray, what do you think about Isaac Collins?
I wrote, he was my lead by, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I like him a lot. I didn't get the sense that many people were that interested in him when I wrote him up. So I blame myself for not being able to get people excited about him, but he looks good. I think there was definitely something. I might even mentioned you in the write-up because like, it's something you say a lot, like how, 2020 was such a mess of a year for minor league prospects and for people's development. So he missed 2020, obviously. So then you have a guy who's like, barely, he's already going to be, he was going to be 22. Well, he was 22. He was 22 in 2020. So he was already like, at a point where that development really should have been ramping up and him moving on to like AA in 2020, but it didn't happen. So instead he went back to single A for 2021, and then he slowly built up. So then he didn't move up until like to AA until he was 24 years old. Then, AAA the following year at 25. So now we're looking at a guy who, like, on the surface, you see his numbers and you're like, well, he's 27 years old. So he's obviously a quad A player. And I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't think it is. Like, he has always had great contact. He was a 19% strikeout rate guy in AAA, 14% walk rate in AAA, hit 273 with a fairly neutral BABIP. Had power and speed, 14 homers, 24 steals in AAA last year. And because through no fault of his own, he just wasn't promoted. Like, he was ready last year. So now he's up and doing exactly what he's always done, which is hit for power and have some speed and also hit for a decent average. So, yeah, I mean, I like Isaac Collins. I think he's probably a 12-team mixed league guy, even though I think at most people are probably looking at him for 15-team mixed leagues. But yeah, I'm in on Isaac Collins.
Yeah, I mean, he makes great contact. I mean, I think if you're just looking for somebody who's not going to hurt you in like a middle infield spot or as a utility player, Isaac Collins is a really solid guy to grab up at this point. Like I said, top 60 on the 30-day player rater. So he's been performing. Like I said, we're going to stay a little bit deeper for this last couple. Lenyn Sosa, number 64 on the 30-day player rater, 258, 305, 483, but he does have 5 home runs in that time and a stolen base. What are your thoughts on Lenyn Sosa?
This is the first time I've had thoughts on Lenyn Sosa.
I'm forcing them into your head right now.
I managed to avoid Lenyn Sosa for my entire life until now. Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably a hot potato. I think he had a good month, like you mentioned, 64 on the 30-day player rater. So it was a solid month, but he doesn't really have power. He doesn't really have speed. I don't know. He's kind of a lightweight. I'm not totally into Lenyn Sosa. I'll be honest. He's fine if you're like struggling at like, I think he has a bunch of different eligibilities or whatever he has. I don't even know because I've never thought about him before, but he has a few different eligibilities. So I guess if you're in like a 15-team mixed league or deeper and you're struggling somewhere like at MI or CI or utility, and you're like and you're up against it, then maybe Lennon Sosa. But yeah, I don't know. I saw Lennon Sosa on waivers in one of my leagues, and I did not pick him up. So I don't know, man. I have I don't have like a ton of good feelings for him, but I went for Angel Martinez over Lennon Sosa to give you an idea of where I went. But yeah, I guess if you're looking for a hot bat,
I think that does say a little bit for us, Gray. I will say for his credit for the season, pretty much across the board, he has better numbers than he's ever had. So hard hit, average exit, velocity, launch angle is up, zone rate is good. He's kind of always been pretty solid in that category. So I do think maybe there's the best version of Lennon Sosa that we're going to get right now. But as you mentioned, it's not overly exciting. It's mostly power with a little bit of speed. And he is kind of moving up in the order at different times. So it's something to kind of monitor if he does stick up in the top of the order. But for now, probably nothing unless you are in, I would say, 15 team or, like you said, multi-position in a 12 team with a fairly deep bench could be interesting. If you weren't interested in Lennon Sosa, can I interest you in Romy Gonzalez, Gray? Number 69 on the 30-day play rater, Giggity. 316, 349, 684. He's hit 4 home runs and a stolen base. Again, kind of in the same mold, but is he any more interesting to you, Gray, because he's not a Chicago White Sox player?
No, not really. I would probably say Romy Gonzalez over Lennon Sosa if I was struggling for an MI guy. But yeah, I'm not really super interested in Romy Gonzalez either. A slight bit better than Sosa, but not much better.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to play every day, which is the problem. But I do actually kind of like Romy Gonzalez. He hits the ball really, really hard. He just hits it kind of into the ground. It belongs in Toronto, not Boston. But if he can just lift the ball a little bit more, he absolutely crushes the ball. He's averaging a 94.8 average exit velocity. He has a 60.2% hard hit rate. So he's destroying baseballs. They just, he's also a 48% ground ball guy. So that's part of the problem there. All right, great. Let's SAGNOF it up. Shelby Miller goes on the IL because he's terrible. Who do you want in Arizona as the closer for now?
No one. I guess Kevin Ginkel. I don't know. I think probably Ginkel, but I don't have great feelings for Ginkel. It's Ginkel Einhorn Ginkel. I think Graveman is also there, and I think he's probably the second guy for the D-backs, but it's not great. I looked at Ginkel because in one league I do have Ginkel, and it sounds like I have STD. I have Ginkel. I have Ginkel in one league, and I looked at his numbers for like the last, for whatever couple weeks since he's been like the quote unquote handcuff / closer or whatever. I think he had like one save in like 3 weeks or something. I don't know. It wasn't good. So I guess my point is I was looking at him and I need saves in that league. And even in that league, I was kind of like, it's not, I don't know if it's really worth it to put Ginkel in my lineup. So instead I went with a terrible starter, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I guess Ginkel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're going with somebody that's who you're going with, but I honestly don't want him. Maybe Kyle Backus for lefty, specific saves. That might be actually where I go if I'm desperate for saves, because at least he's been pretty solid at least. Whereas, I don't know that I've ever seen somebody with an 8.18 ERA get the closer gig, Gray. This is maybe the first time in all of baseball I've ever seen that, which is kind of crazy. It's Arizona. And speaking of crazy closing gigs, Philadelphia. Are you ready to curse Matt Strahm and give him the closer label?
No. I think I think the Phillies they moved on from Kirkring to Strahm. I do think Strahm is probably their number one right now, but I think in today's the 21st. I think by the 31st they're gonna trade for someone. They just signed David Robertson, so I wouldn't be surprised if David Robertson gets saves or gets more saves than Strahm or Kirkring if they don't go out and trade for someone. But I think they're going to. I mean, they'd be foolish not to. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kyle Finnegan or David Bednar or someone go over to the Phillies and become, a terrible closer for the Phillies for a month. Someone's got to get that terrible closer for the Phillies role. It's not gonna fill itself. I think probably Strahm, but I don't want him in any leagues really either.
Yeah, he's been better as of late, so there's that. But again, as soon as Philly gives somebody closer duties, they just fall apart. I would pick up Strahm and just know that eventually he's going to blow up on you. Daniel Roberts looked really good since they called him up. They could potentially look at him, but I agree. The Phillies seem like they're surely going to the playoffs, so this feels like a clear place of investment that they need to look at. Nobody else in that bullpen has been any good, so they probably need more than one arm, honestly. Let's move over to their divisional, I would say rival, but I don't think anybody considers Miami a rival. Is there anybody there that you want as the closer, or if somebody's desperate, who do you think is getting the most saves there?
I was thinking because I saw you had the Marlins down for us to discuss with SAGNOF, and I just thought of last year. Was it last year with Tanner Scott? Where they traded him away? Yeah. Actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't be shocked if the Marlins trade just about anyone. The Marlins, I think, with their bullpen, they have an open door policy where it's like, whoever you want, if you're willing to give us someone for them, you can have them. I don't think anyone in the Marlins bullpen is really off limits for a trade. So I like Ronnie Henriquez. Henriquez. I like Ronnie Henriquez, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Marlins trade two of the three guys who are currently in talks for getting saves for them, which is Bender and Calvin Foucher. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade either of them or all three of them. Even I wouldn't be shocked. So I like Henriquez though. If he was there getting saves, he's been good.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's probably worth a look, and Lake Bakar also worth a look. He's been really good since he's been called up. Both of them could potentially be getting save opportunities because, as you mentioned, Foucher and Bender probably on the move if we had to guess from how Miami tends to treat relievers. And one more here, another bad team over in Colorado. We really thought maybe they had finally found a closer in Seth Halverson, and then he just blew up terribly, Gray. And it seems like they took the job away from him immediately following that. Who do you want in Colorado if you have to have somebody?
I don't want anyone in Colorado. I honestly, I think you're like, I feel like if you're desperate for saves, I feel like you try and get like a Cade Smith or I don't know, or like someone like maybe a Uriel Rodriguez, or a setup man on a better team, because you're not going to really get saves from the Rockies guy. I mean, maybe, but it's not worth the headache. So if I were like, really desperate, I'd probably look at like just a setup man who happens to be available. And I mean, there's better ones obviously than others. Like Jason Adam is better than, Dennis Santana, but I would just take a flyer on a handcuff at this point versus like trying to chase Rockies saves. Like, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing good can come from chasing Rockies saves, as Seth Holverson's ERA proves. Give the people some waiver wire bats, Greg.
Okay. So I'm looking at the 7-day player rater, and it looks like John Rave is on the top of it. Huh? Who? What? I don't know. Must be hot though. Isaac Collins is number 2 there, and as we went over him earlier in the show. I like him I like him for long term, but short term he's been excellent. Ryan McMahon has been really good for the Rockies. He's probably better when he's in Coors than versus outside of it, but whatever. Mike Tuckman, he's been good. He's been hot. Mickey Moniak, who we mentioned earlier, he's been good. Miguel Vargas, White Sox, first base, third base, outfield eligibility. He's been good. Victor Caratini has been really good. And I want to say he was hitting like third yesterday, yesterday being Sunday. He was hitting somewhere in the top of the lineup, and I was like, whoa, Caratini, what's going on there? I sounded like Norm Macdonald real quick. Trent Grisham, he's been hot. He's number 10 on the 7-day player rater, at least. David Fry, random, I guess, whatever. Taylor Trammell had a good Sunday and has moved up on the 7-day player rater. And Brett Beatty, but yeah, there isn't a lot of not a whole lot of information in the 7-day player rater as I do this because of the All-Star break. So there's only really 3 games worth of information that we're going off of. But yeah, Caleb Dorbin, Matt Shaw has been hot. Joey Ortiz, who I was about to call Hoey. That's weird. And Giancarlo Stanton has been hot. So there's some names for you.
Yeah, that's some good names there, Gray. Some pitchers for you. I don't have a whole lot because it's kind of a weird week still with the pitchers resettling. But Dean Kramer at Cleveland, Eric Lauer at Detroit, Ryan Nelson at Pittsburgh, Edward Cabrera versus San Diego, Patrick Corbin versus the Athletics, Jeffrey Springs at Houston, and Landon Rupp at Atlanta. And I'm being honest, I don't absolutely love any of those, but those are the best available in my leagues that I could find. So that's what I'm going to let you know. That's where I would go if I was looking for streamers. If you have specific questions, you can find us on Twitter. I am at RazBeaton. Gray runs the at Razzball account. You can find us on youtube.com/Razzball Fantasy or on Razzball.com in the comment section. May your lineups be perfect, and we'll talk to you next week. See you, Gray.
Lates.